You could tell whenever you was going to be ambushed because it would give you a jerk and you knew the Germans were waiting on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have a battle. You'd have to fight for your life.
Well, you had so many incredible experiences after D-Day. We want to focus on D-Day in this interview, but let me just say that you earned 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, the French Croix de Guerre, the Distinguished Flying Cross, all of that after D-Day. But first you had to survive D-Day. Now, you were attached to the 116th RCT, which was part of the 29th Infantry Division, and you came into Omaha Beach at 7:30 in the morning in one of the deadliest places in that deadliest of all beaches, Charlie Sector, which is on the far right flank.
Yes.
Now, do you remember leaving that troop ship and getting into the landing craft?
I remember, yes, I remember getting, we'd come down the ropes, and the boat was rocking so bad you would go out from it good ways, and then you'd go back into it, and the waves was big and the wind was blowing. I was holding my arm on the inside of the rope. It was burning me, but I was hanging there, and the officer that was by me was catching me in the belt ever so often as I was going down. And whenever I got down into the craft, he told us we were told to keep our heads down by an officer I didn't know. I didn't know anybody but Captain Hughes. I did know another officer that got killed, but
you knew you were going into the coast of France, but you didn't know this was Omaha Beach, or you?
No, I did not. I didn't know that was Omaha Beach.
Well, what was it like in that landing craft, packed in there?
Everybody was glued to see what was going ahead, and everybody was looking at different ones being killed, and they knew that we could expect the same thing, that was going to get killed.
Well, what were your feelings as you were in this landing craft heading to the beach?
I was scared to death, and I guess if I hadn't had somebody to coach me as I was going, this officer shoved me down on my stomach in the sand, that hard, red-looking sand.
I mean, there was an officer in the landing craft beside you. You knew, and he didn't make it.
This one officer, I remember hearing his voice, and he was over to the left. There was a tank that had been hit, and it was right there in the water. And I remember hearing them. They were hollering, you know, you could hear them, what was going on. There was, I'd say there wasn't a half a dozen people. I can't say for sure because I wasn't counting them. I was trying to stay down myself. Mm-hmm. And I was sure the 3 of us that was by that post, because I had, one man had his leg over the top of me to keep me from getting up. And of course nobody didn't have to tell me to get up because I was scared to move. And then after about 45 minutes or an hour, some ships come up close. They were firing right on top of the high embankment. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they called it, but it was high embankment. They were from 100 to 130 feet high, and it was straight up, and they were hitting it, and then it slowed down the machine guns, and this officer told me, he says, let's make a dash. It's covered in smoke. Let's make a dash. If we're going to get killed, we'll get killed.
So you're on the landing craft, packed in with all these troops, and you're heading toward the beach. Are you drawing fire from the Germans while you're still in the water?
They didn't start shooting. They were holding their machine gun fire until you stepped off. And then they just picked you off. The machine guns, I understand, I don't know for sure, but different ones was telling me that they were about 8 to 10 feet apart up there on the bank, and they were told how many there was. I don't know that. But they would wait until you made on the beach, and then they would pick you off then. They would. That's what it was, getting so many.
So when you're on the landing craft and you're heading in toward Omaha Beach, packed in there with all those other soldiers, what was going through your mind?
Looking for a place to hide, that was number one. And there was, the only thing we could see was an iron cross that was there. I don't know what they called them. And then you didn't have much protection there, because if they come through the holes where those bars were, they could get you. And then they were hitting that iron, and it was ricocheting, and it could be hitting you either way. So if you're laying flat down, that was the only protection you had. And you were doing a lot of praying. I know I used a lot of prayers.
After this ramp came down, you found yourself in neck-deep water?
Yes.
So you were trying to find some cover right away, I assume?
Yeah, I was looking for a place. Nobody wasn't telling me, but I was looking for a place to hide. And I felt the captain grab my belt. In the next place, I was flat on my face down in the mud with that red sand, and the water was washing, and I had to turn my head sideways so I wouldn't drown. But it kept going down right fast. Then we were left out in the open. But well, the troops back behind us, a lot of them didn't make it. It just there was no place for them to get back there.
Well, in a moment, we're going to come back and talk about how you survived Omaha Beach. We're talking to Mike Fitch, D-Day veteran. We'll be back in a moment.
They're all around us. They're the men and women who served in our nation's armed forces. In good times and bad, they've been willing to stand in harm's way to preserve, protect, and defend the legacy of freedom we enjoy as Americans. All of them gave some, and some of them gave all. We owe them a lot. So the next time you see an American veteran, say thank you for all of us.
Welcome back to Military Memoirs. We're talking to Mr. Mike Fitch of Conway, who is a veteran of D-Day, June 6, 1944, and was on Omaha Beach. Mike, the ramp came down, you're off the landing craft and on the beach, and you're seeking cover. What kind of cover did you find?
They had some poles drove in an angle back toward the ocean, and then there was these iron crosses. It looked like a cross. They had 3 different angles to them, and they were up about 4 feet, I guess you would say. And I saw this. That was the only thing that you could see, that you could hide, other than go under the water. And this captain pushed me down in front of this, and then he was right on top of me or by me, and there was another soldier right by me, and that's the only cover